So, in your view, what roles are at risk of disappearing in finance based on the current trend?
Couple of decades, we have been told that it was important to learn how to code. It was important to have technical skills. People should really invest time in broadening their domain expertise.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. If you want to know the impact of AI on finance, investments, and jobs, specifically in the finance industry, you're in the right place. So, we'll discuss the opportunities and risks that will bring to us in the finance sector. Today, I'm so happy to have Gabriel with us. Gabriele has over 8 years of experience in AI and is currently the head of robotics and text automation at a global fintech firm. Gabriele, how are you?
Hey, hello, Charlene. I'm so excited to be here to talk together about this very exciting topic. Maybe before we start, let me
Yeah.
emphasize that this podcast is separated by the current job and my current employer, and any opinion and views that we talk about today. It's of course does not represent any official stance of my current
Okay,
employer
we
or
understood.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good to
Yeah,
have the disclaimer at the very beginning. So yeah,
yeah.
Gabriele, can you share a little bit about your journey into the world of AI and finance? Since I mean, AI is currently really a hot topic across the board. It's not only within the technology sector, right? In finance, in construction, in engineering, in almost every sector, people talk about AI's impact. So, what sparked your interest in this field? Can you share a bit more about it?
Yeah, so of course, I've been exposed in the last few years to several use cases in the financial industry sector, and my primary role has been to identify opportunities to automate some
Mm,
repetitive activities. And over the course of the years, well, we have assisted to a shift to the appetite of automating these manual tasks from very simple, repetitive, and mundane tasks to gradually more complex tasks. And of course, this pushes the professional in this sector to seek for cutting edge technologies. And AI, it's probably the trendiest in the last I don't know, 5, 6 years. So of
mhm,
course, I had the chance to explore it with my personal researches and studies, and now I find myself in a position where I have something to say about the implementation of AI
mm,
within the financial industry. But maybe a good thing to do is before we deep dive into the topic, to set a little bit the expectation for this conversation
mhm.
that we're having together, because
Yeah,
AI is a very hot topic, and
very true.
it's so big that literally everybody is talking about it. And if you think about only in the last 7 days what happened
Mhm,
in AI, with Elon Musk expressing some concern, of course, the big Apple keynote that happened with the new integration with OpenAI and Apple, and even the Pope spoke about AI in the last 7 days. So what we should yeah, so
I like
basically
it.
what we should ask ourselves is, what can we add to this debate? And I
Mm,
think the objective for us should be to offer the perspective of normal people,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
people who are not, let's say, exposed necessarily to the sophistication of niche startups in the AI fields, or don't own a PhD in math, or don't work in the Silicon Valley. So we belong to a large category of people who are we're seeing the AI revolution happening, and they are started to wonder what to do to get ready to it. And
Mm.
I think this is intended to be an open conversation about that, and I hope I can satisfy your curiosity.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And also, I believe, I, our audience today, most of us are, really interested in a job, for example, in the finance sector, or those beginner investors who are interested in, AI's impact in finance and investments. So going back to, your journey and your job journey or your career journey, I wanted to know, you have a two, I want to say, like, passions, for AI and finance together. So I believe, like, for example, some other people may also, feel, yeah, very passionate for the two topics. What jobs and roles are available if you are passionate for the two topics, like in current industry?
So I think if you asked this question a couple of years ago, I would
Mm,
have probably said that the job available to interact with the AI are limited to really tech giants or
mm,
niche startups that are very into the machine learning implementation. But I think there was a milestone who marked an historical moment, which is when I think it was end of 2022 when OpenAI announced ChatGPT, and this was the beginning of democratization of AI. Um, Before that date, it was much more complex to even build a model able to infer a set of data and provide outputs, to make it simple.
mm,
After ChatGPT was released, there is this new concept of pre-trained model. So you basically leverage
mm.
on something that is already existing, that is already trained, and you just
Yeah,
ask the
up to
question.
use, right? Exactly.
Yes. So basically, the question of what are the jobs that have an intersection between these two sectors, it's becoming less and less relevant over time. So I think in a couple of years, if you ask someone what is a possible job in finance using AI, it
Mm.
will sound like what is a possible job in finance where you can use Microsoft Excel. So it's a tool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really love, the term that you mentioned is democratization, right? So it's like for a few years ago when it comes to AI and finance, people are, oh, AI is really a technical job. But now basically every single job, that's what you wanted to say, if, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
that's every single job almost, you need to know how to kind of implement, how to act, at least use AI for, to complete or to execute your job, your tasks. So currently I would say probably it's like a norm instead of something too fancy like what we had before.
Yeah, but maybe if I can add one thing.
Mm,
It was particularly interesting for me, the statement from Jensen Huang,
mhm,
CEO of NVIDIA, when it was asked what are the competencies that people should try and learn to upskill in the light of this new AI revolution upcoming. And I think what he answered summarizes very well what's happening and the potentialities of AI. I think over the last couple of decades, we have been told that it was important to learn how to code. It was important to have technical skills. But now the thing is, the revolution with AI is that you can basically demand the technical knowledge to the AI, and
mm,
this will open up a lot of opportunities to actually invest time in broadening your domain knowledge. So if
mm,
you
mm,
are an expert in finance, you will most likely need to invest time in nurturing this and broadening this domain expertise, because the technical challenges will be solved by AI, but the domain expertise will separate the winners from the losers.
Yeah, that's a really, really good ad. But at the end of the day, AI is really enhancing the traditional finance roles, I would say. Overall speaking, that's something that no one can deny. So, so my next question to you, Gabriele, is how is AI enhancing traditional finance roles? Can you be specific? So when it comes to, for example, like there are so many players in the finance industry, right? We have investment banking, asset management, wealth management, and within each industry, we have different roles like analysis, analytics, accountants, financial advisors, associates. So how do you see AI is enhancing the traditional financial roles in the industry overall speaking?
Yeah. So I think there is we have to divide a little bit here in two categories. The role there are a certain set of roles that are specifically involved into the information collection, data collection, analysis, presenting data in various forms. And then there is the decision making role in the let's say investment in how to invest and how to structure the portfolio. And I think both of them will be impacted. So I think first of all, if you think about, for example, an analyst role, the role of an analyst is basically the one to collect data, analyze this data, structure it, present the conclusion in a nice way, and even maybe, I don't know, create an artifact that can show this conclusion in a good way. AI, and in particular generative AI, can intervene in each one of these steps. So you can collect information much faster in real time, thanks to ChatGPT, and I think we can even show something later, an example of
Oh
how you
yeah,
can.
we'll do some little demos to show how we ask ChatGPT to help us manage like portfolio,
Yeah,
how to pick stocks.
yeah, exactly. And you can collect data and very easily. You can structure the data very easily. You can create artifacts very easily. So I think those jobs will be much significantly enhanced by this. If you think about also, I don't know, an accountant,
Mm-hmm.
part of the role of the accountant is to take information that are already available and
Mm.
structure it in templates that are predefined, so that they
Mm.
are understandable to the right audience, like, I don't know, a position paper or any kind of document that can be built by an accountant. You could
Mm.
potentially ask AI to do this translation with the data available and to put them in the right template that you expect. And these, of course, gives the human the possibility to spend more time in analyzing the accuracy of the information, the completeness of the information. So of course you enhance the quality of the results, because you put the brain at the service of the accuracy, and you supervise what AI is providing.
So I would say overall speaking is there's just no doubt that AI is transforming the overall industry, no matter what you do in within the financial sector. And another thing I'm quite curious about, and I would like to gather your thought on, Gabriele, is like if we look, going forward, currently I don't know, if we see from 0 to 10 where we are in the AI transformation journey. Maybe we're only at the very beginning, or you think it's already very mature already, or what can we expect in terms of how AI affecting jobs that involve, financial decision making and overall, jobs in finance as well. Where
Mhm.
we are and what changes, more changes can we expect?
So what we have seen already in the last
Mm-hmm.
few years is that AI has been fundamentally applied to quantitative analysis in finance. So
Mm-hmm.
this has allowed some providers to offer these services where basically the investor is able to change his portfolio very fast based
Mm-hmm.
on short-term decisions made by an AI on the basis of a large amount of data analyzed very quickly. So this has led to shift from, let's say, the traditional fundamentals-driven long-short strategies to something that is more driven by a quantitative analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that this trend will continue and will be even more
Get
widely
amplified.
used.
Yep.
Yes, because with the new large language model with ChatGPT and the democratization of AI, my expectation is that we will see more providers offering this kind of services at a cheaper price. So it will become
Mm.
more and more convenient for the investors to rely on those automatic uh,
Analysis by AI,
analysis
right?
by
Mm.
AI rather than to an actively managed portfolio. And this confirmed a shift that we are already seen in the market because investors want to get rid of the high fees of the portfolio managers. And what we
Mm.
have seen in the last decades is that the ratio of funds that are passively managed to actively managed has increased. So people tend to invest more in,
Favor more passive investing. Mm.
yes. And I think this will become more and more evident. So it's either passive investing or instead of following an index, it will become following the indication coming from AI.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
think I can already imagine some active managers may argue that, yeah, we would our active management industry will never be replaced, and then why? And then so we can also use AI, right? We can currently we have really kind of like tight in margin because everyone is so expensive, right? Investment analysts and associates and portfolio managers, but with AI's help probably the fee can be even further reduced, and then the industry will still be there. I don't know, it's just I'm just like imagine what they will say, about the impact of AI. That's
yeah.
really really interesting, to hear your thoughts on this, Gabriel. I think one more question about
Mhm.
job in finance that will be impacted by AI. I think it's a question that I believe a lot of people will be interested in is the risk of job risk of this the jobs that have a risk of
Mm.
disappearing in finance in the future. A lot of people may argue that AI will replace you, will replace me, will replace a lot of people, not only in finance sector, but in every sector there is a risk. So in your view, what roles are at risk of disappearing in finance based on the current trend
So
that you
that's
see?
a
Yeah.
very difficult question, and at this stage, we probably don't have the perception of what's going to happen. But if we rely on um, people that are much more into the topics than us, like Elon
Mm-hmm.
Musk has recently depicted some very uh, interesting scenario where basically every job can be replaced. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to comment on that. What I can what I can say is what will change, in my view, immediately is
Mm-hmm.
the way the profiles of people will be allocated to the different jobs. So imagine being fresh graduate in finance, very knowledgeable about finance and your specializations, and imagine being outperformed by a guy only because he can use Microsoft Excel better than you. And this is a scenario that it's very likely to happen if you interview and if you are a fresh graduate and participate
Mm,
into an assessment. Or I'll tell you another example. Imagine you have a PhD in theoretical physics, and you end up becoming a quantitative analyst just because you can code, and you're good at math, basically. So
mm,
I think these are two examples of cases where the skills are misused. So I think the beneficial effect of AI will be to give back the right skill to the right roles. So if you are a PhD in physics, most likely you won't be used for your coding skills, but you will be used
mm,
in your field with your expertise. And if you're an expert in finance, you shouldn't be worried about being outperformed by someone who can code. So I think this is the beneficial effect of AI. Now, of course, this comes at a price, because this technological advancement normally is supported by the business only when this leads to an increase of profitability. So it's likely that we will assist to a reduction of the workload of the current in the current jobs, and of course the jobs that are mostly at risk are the ones who perform the most repetitive activities. um,
mm. Such
but
as, for example, I believe, I don't know, accountant, you see them as jobs that are, doing repetitive work, for
uh,
example.
uh,
I don't.
maybe the repetitive part of their job will be automated, but
Mm,
I believe in every job there is still a part where
a
you
certain
still
part, yeah,
need.
can be
Yeah,
automated. Yeah.
yeah, certain part can be automated, but you still need to have human supervision, first of all, to make sure that the output that comes out from AI are still useful in your context, and also like a critical view based on experience, which is something that at this stage
Mm.
I don't think AI can replace.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great to hear your thoughts about it. And then in the meantime, I think another question or another area that I think a lot of people will encourage young professionals to do is to, to upskill, to reskill, to upskill for in AI integration. And not only about AI, all the,
Mm.
new technology, anything that is relevant to your work, to your job, to your profession, to your career, never stop learning. So, I will throw the question to you again, Gabriele. So, what are the best strategies, for example, in your view, for finance professionals to reskill or upskill for AI integration? Do you have ever, do you have any strategies or thoughts or advice for those people who wanted, to succeed in this area?
So my personal view, as I've shared before, is people should really invest time in broadening their domain expertise. And then, so for example, professional in finance should really invest time in um, finding a competitive advantage in their knowledge rather than in
Mm,
AI knowledge. And then for the AI, it's more about using it rather than knowing it. So to
using it than knowing it,
yes,
what do you mean?
yeah, because I think AI is generally composed of a set of very complex systems and technology, and they keep evolving every day
Mm, mm,
at a pace that nobody expected. And so it's very hard to keep up with that technological advancement. easiest thing that we can do is
Yeah, for
to really,
normal
yeah,
people, right?
yeah. So the easiest thing that we can do is really start using it, experiment it, starting from the most basic GPT tools,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, which
start
you will
thinking.
show us later.
Exactly. And thinking about how can I use it in my daily job? And this will
Mm,
automatically give you some insights of how it works, and then
mm,
also
mm.
maybe stimulate curiosity to
Yeah,
um,
yeah. If I can
do
summarize,
something.
the key takeaway you wanted to share is that probably for a finance professional, you don't need to go that far to register for an AI course, learn the technology, the back end technology, but you need to learn, I would say, the front end, the user cases,
Mhm.
how to use it, how to
Yeah,
utilize it for your
yeah.
daily life, right?
And there are also, by the way, very interesting courses available in
Mm.
pretty much every platform like Coursera, Udemy, that are
Mm-hmm.
specific of um, AI and finance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting to have a look at them. They won't explain you what is the underlying technology
Mm.
that makes possible to infer the data and generate the outputs, but they can tell you how to make best use of it. So I think
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, that's superb. This is not the end of the episode. In the upcoming podcast with Gabriela, he will demonstrate how to use ChatGPT to pick stocks and discuss the risks of using AI and how to manage those risks. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. We promise to respond to you. Like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.